you are just joining, welcome. We're going to wait about 2 more minutes. I've still got about 7 people I'm waiting for. So we're going to wait a few minutes for them to trickle in. If you haven't already, go ahead and turn on your camera, change your name to your full name and your branch, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. All right, gonna wait just 1 more minute for a few more people to follow, and then we'll start at 11:05. All right, it's 11:05. Thank you for being on time, everybody who's here. I'm going to run through a quick attendance, so you can just say here or yes or whatever you'd like to say to let me know that you are present. I'll go through and I'm just going to say your first name. If I mispronounce it, I am so sorry. But while we are going through the names, just go ahead and make sure you are muted and make sure that your camera is on and that you have changed your name to your full name and your branch. We'll get started with attendance. All right, Andrew.
Here.
Awesome. Barron.
Here.
Great. Jonathan.
That's me.
Awesome. Taeyang. Here. Great. Younglan. Okay. Liano. Liano or Leonel.
Present.
Awesome. Okay. Mason.
Present.
Great. Naja.
Here.
Awesome. Nicole. Okay. Richard. Richard or Ricky?
Here.
Awesome. Taylor?
Yep,
Is
here.
Taylor- Awesome. Okay. Sunjong or Sunjong? Sunjong? No? Okay. Okay. Sibonga Konke?
Here.
Awesome. Timothy?
Yep. Here.
Awesome. Thank you. Walter? Okay. Winner? Okay. Zio?
Present. That's me.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, next. Byungjun?
Here.
Awesome. Jungwon? Okay. Yeonhee? Okay. And Holly?
Hey. Here.
And Tina? Tina? Okay. All right, great. Thank you, everybody. Okay, looks like there's no one in the waiting room, so I think I'm just gonna get started. Welcome to the C2 High workshop. I'm gonna try to get you guys out of here on time. Yesterday, if you were with me, I think we did pretty good on time, so I'm gonna try to duplicate that and make sure that we get you guys out right at 12 or maybe a little bit before. My name is Terra Glab. I'm from the Mukdong branch. I've been teaching with Cheongdam for about 2 years, and it's been really fun, so I'm gonna continue to do it for as long as it's fun, because I only like to do fun things. All right, for C2, there are 3 levels, or 3 sections that we put the levels into. We've got C2 High, which is us, that consists of Eagle, Alba Plus. Then we also have mid and low levels, mid being Bridge Par Birdie, and low being EC4 Mega Giga Terra. If you've taught high levels before, that's awesome. You understand where the kids' knowledge level is at. These classes can be a bit more challenging because you have to prep a lot more, I think, to keep kids engaged. But I think C2 High is probably one of my favorite levels to teach, specifically because of the books that we get to read. And I think it's a little bit more choose your own adventure when it comes to the projects, and discussions can be pretty intellectual, which I really enjoy. These are the 3 books which the levels focus on. For Eagle, it's a book called Chew on This. The theme is the exploitation of the fast food industry. And for Albatross, the next book is called The Robots Are Coming. This theme is like the rapid growth of automation and jobs. And then for Albatross Plus, that theme of this book is the consequences of human intervention on nature. I've taught all 3. I think they're pretty interesting. They can get a bit repetitive, so I would make sure that you kind of prep backwards, like save your most fun projects maybe for later when they have a bit more of an understanding, and try to build their understanding and build their I think excitement around the projects. You can even have multiple parts of a project leading up to a bigger one, just because the books are essentially the same theme for every single chapter. So just make sure that you're continuing to continuing to implement exciting things to make it new and different every day. The course objectives, this can be found on the segment guide. Today, I'm not going to be talking too much about the segment guide or going through it too much, just because you have access to that all term long. You do not have access to me all term long unless you would like to email me and ask any questions. You absolutely can. I have my email on the first slide, and I can show it to you again before we finish our meeting. But wanted to stick to this so that we know our course objectives. The first one is to gain background knowledge through analysis of concepts within a nonfiction book. So these books are all nonfiction. There's lots of statistics and facts and research within them. The second one is to strengthen problem-solving skills and creative thinking through project-based learning. This is the fun class. You're the fun teacher with fun projects. So keep that in mind as you're prepping. You want things to be enjoyable for the students as much as possible. And our last one is to enhance background knowledge of various topics and build perspectives. Even though there is statistics and a lot of research based in these books, I think they still do a pretty good job of leaving it up for the reader's interpretation, whether or not this thing that they're talking about is a bad thing or a good thing. So that I think can bring a lot of excitement to the topics and the discussions that you have. All right, class structure. It can be a little bit different depending on what the week is because of how long you spend on the project. So for the first week, you will have no vocabulary test, so it'll be a little bit different. But going into week 2, this is where you will start to have your vocabulary test. So within the first hour, you'll take attendance, you'll check that homework. I will go over the homework in one of my last slides a bit more specifically. You'll have your vocabulary test, and then you'll work on something called the perspective speech, which is, I think this is the second time we're implementing this, so it's still a bit new. So hopefully I can give some good advice for that as well. And then the first stimulus page you'll want to go over. Then in your second hour, you'll want to start the concept context pages. There's about 4 of them. They're based on reading and scanning for questions, to answer questions. Then you have another stimulus page, and then you go over the perspective page, and then the project can either start halfway through the second hour, or it can start a little bit before the second hour ends, just depending on what's in the SMART textbook for that week. And then obviously after project finishes, if your timing was good, you will have time for presentations and feedback as well, which I will give some advice on as well. So that's the breakdown of the 3 hours. All right, next is the perspective speech. This is part of their I-learning. And so they do this before, during, and after class. There's 3 parts to this one. So before class, they are getting introduced to the topic and they're organizing their ideas about the topic. So they're trying to decide if they agree or disagree with the statement, basically. And they're choosing their stance, and they're going to think of maybe just some reasons, like 1 sentence, a couple words. It's just like project framing. It's kind of like an outline that they build before class. So they have to listen to something that's introducing the topic, and then they think of their reasons. Then during class, if they've done their homework, their before class homework, they can get started in writing right away, which is great. If they haven't, they may require a bit more teacher guidance and a bit more brainstorming to get them started. So during class is when they get to personalize their essay. They get to write a script for a speech with your guidance, because they'll be doing it again in class. And they can also add images for the presentation as well when they finished writing. I recommend having them do this last. Because if they do it first, they might spend too much time on it and then not be able to finish their writing. If they don't finish their writing in class, it's not the end of the world. They can go back and finish it during their homework, but the writing portion actually is locked until they have that in-class day. Then after that class, so say they missed that class or they're absent that day, it will still be open for them just after that day that they're supposed to do it in that class. So whether it's their Thursday or Friday class, once that class time is over, then it will be unlocked for them to revisit during their homework. So then that leads us to after class. They hopefully have finished their essays in class. They should have about 35 minutes to do this. If you'd like to shorten it on days where you feel like you've got more information to cover, that's okay. Especially towards the end of the term, they should be able to get it done a bit sooner. And you can also adjust your brainstorming as well. Sometimes I will brainstorm with them on the board, help them pick some opening remarks, maybe help them think of some reasons, and then that gets them started a bit quicker. But towards the end of the term, you can kind of cut back on that brainstorm and trust that they have been led well by you for the first half of the term, and that they can take it the rest of the way. So yeah, after class, they finish their writing if they didn't already. Then they get to present and record their speech while they're looking at their script. And then they get an evaluation and some feedback on that as well. Okay, this is what the students see in class when they are writing. So there's you and the students in the room during this time. So you'll have a bit of collaboration there, which I think is really great, especially when they're writing. You can offer some really valuable advice. So usually how I like to run this page is I start by playing the middle image, which you have a button that you can press and it will kind of introduce what the topic is. So this one says, robot soldiers will make the world a better place. Do you agree or disagree? Then you can help define any answers there. Maybe they don't know what making the world a better place would mean. You can kind of give some examples of that. Maybe it's a healthier place. Maybe it's a safer place. Kind of give them a few more helpful words for that definition. Then you go ahead and press the agree and disagree buttons. And the agree button will say something like, if you do agree that it's better, how could it make your life better? And then disagree is, how could it make your life worse? Usually something pretty opposite like that. Then afterwards is when I would start to brainstorm. You can help them figure out relevant reasons and make sure they're supporting it with personal experience. This is different from an opinion essay. Opinion essays, you can just state facts. Opinion essays are a little bit more straightforward, but for perspective and personal experience essays, they're going to want to back up their opinion with personal experiences. So that means they're going to need to use I statements. They need to talk about their feelings. Maybe they're talking about their family members, some sort of personal experience like that. So as you're proctoring, that's one thing you can look for. You're also able to read what students are writing. You can proctor and walk around and see what they're writing as well. I think it's good to be in their space, but also on your tablet, you can lock the screen and then go through and read through each student as well, just to see where they're at. So you can brainstorm those reasons on the board and then they can get started right away, and then you just start to proctor. You can also give advice on grammar and vocabulary as well, so that they get some more points there. And then the students are obviously just going to be writing their scripts, making sure they're using full sentences as you're guiding them as well. It should not be 35 minutes of you standing at your podium and them just writing. You should still be in their space and helping them get as many points as you can for their iLearning. I think this also helps to build rapport, because the students start to see like, oh, they're committed to my success. And I think that really helps them to commit to class as well. All right, now getting into the SMART textbook, the first 2 pages. The first one is the lesson page. So you can use this lesson cover to preview the lesson topic and to build interest. So you can prep maybe like 1 or 2 discussion questions, and then you can also review maybe last week's topic before introducing the new one. Every time I teach the robot book, this is something that I will do just to do a little bit of review. Maybe there are some students absent that don't remember what we talked about last week because they weren't here. And it's also a way to get students who are really paying attention to kind of prove to you that like they really are committed to learning in that class. So sometimes they'll say something like, okay, what robot job did we learn about last week? Maybe they'll say restaurant robots, okay? And then what do we think we're gonna learn about this week while you're looking at the picture? Maybe a hotel robot. And so then that kind of starts to get them thinking about what the topic might be, and that builds their interest just a little bit as well. The next page is to build that interest a bit deeper, and you can also prep media cards and discussion questions for this in addition to what's provided in the SMART textbook. So the SMART textbook, I actually want to go in and show you a little bit. So if I go to that first stimulus page, it will have a discussion question for you. Then students can fill in their answer. It's another follow-up question. They can say whether they think it's scary, or they can fill in their own opinion as well. Then there's a small part that has apart from the book, maybe it's just the cover or something on the back if it's the beginning. Later it might be an actual excerpt from the inside of the book, and then it gives another discussion question as well. There's also an option for research if you have time for this, and if your branch would like you to complete this portion as well. This is where they can do a little bit of research to further their understanding as well. So they the book does a good job of giving you discussion questions here, but feel free to prep your own if you feel like you know what your class likes and doesn't. You can kind of tailor your discussion questions and media cards to your class as you start to get to know them a little bit better as well. So that is the stimulus page, and it's not meant to be an in-class reading portion, even though there is sometimes a part from the book on that page. You want to avoid the reading in class because it takes a bit long. They should be reading for homework, so they already come to class set and ready to discuss what they've read. And you can also cold call students on this page and the lesson page as well to try to get all the students involved. I think cold calling is really great, but you can also take volunteers. It's great to reward the students who are really excited to speak, but don't rely on those talkative students too much, because I think when it comes to these C2 classes, it's really easy for you to just go back to the kids who are going to continuously be answering ones you can trust a lot. But don't forget about those quiet kids, because they matter too, and they've also got opinions, even if it doesn't seem like it. They still appreciate being called on. And then there's also one more stimulus page after the concept context as well. All right, next, the concept context. So the methodology for this page is to scan for the answers, basically. So I'll show you this in the portal as well. So they've got about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think like a 4 or 5-ish questions on each page. There is 4 of these. There's a variety of questions. You've got true, false, fill in the blank. You've also got multiple choice, and then you can type in answers as well. So it gets students to interact with the book in class, but obviously, again, this is not an in-class reading portion. It depends on what your branch also likes for this page. I personally enjoy the in-class reading. I think getting the students to interact with the book in class is actually really valuable. Then we can all be on the same topic, and I think it makes the class discussion a little bit more streamlined because we've all just read the same paragraphs. And now we all need to think about our opinions about that paragraph. But it just depends on what your branch does, what you feel like the flow of your class is like as well. But if you want to go with that first methodology, you can put students in groups, you can have them do individual work, and you can have them scan. Maybe if there's 5 questions on the page, they can split it up in groups of 5, maybe give them 2 minutes to go through it, 1 minute to go through it. Again, not too much time because there are 4 of these pages as well. So they can go through, they can scan for these answers, and then you can obviously cold call afterwards and make sure students justify their answers, not just true or false. You're correct, okay, number 2, but okay, true, correct, where did you find that answer? Can you read that sentence for me? I'm really making sure that they are proving their understanding as well. And you can also prep media cards for this as well. Like for example, for number 3 here, I put maybe a media card in there if they don't know what the word threatened means. It's a pretty high level, so they probably do, but you never know. There might be some words that they just haven't seen before. And yeah, media cards. I think this is the fun class, so you should be showing photos and videos that not only help to solidify understanding, but also can help students to interact with the topic a bit more and then have more fun with it as well. The perspective page is next. This is going to be a short page, maybe about 3 to 5 minutes, I would say. It's pretty short. All you have to do is kind of put these 3 that they give you, these examples, and you're going to put them somewhere on the graph. So you'll read the directions out loud first. You can have a student read the directions as well. You can proctor as students decide their answers. This isn't really like a group activity. It's more student-based, more individual in their tablet. You can also capture students' responses and display it on the TV. There's actually a function in the Smart Textbook where you're able to kind of screenshot your page, and then you can see maybe like where they all put it at the same time. And then that can also facilitate a short discussion after that about the students' opinions. Maybe someone really, really disagrees, and then you can kind of have them facilitate this like small debate in class about why they put it there and why the other students think it's this way. And it's a great opportunity for them to build on each other if they agree or disagree. Again, maybe like 6 minutes max for this page because you've still got a project to do. And then again, another stimulus page as well. So lots of discussion happening in this class, which I think is really fun. All right, moving on to the project. So for the project, again, there's a few different ways that you can run this. I'll show you this in the Smart Textbook as well. You can also, depending on what your branch, their policies are, you can also change the project if you'd like to. You can modify it a little bit. So there's 2 parts to the project. The first part talks about the personalization of the project, just an individual part, and then it becomes a collaborative project. So for part 1, it kind of is asking students to get to think about maybe the first part of this project. So for this project, it's talking about designing a hotel. Here it only highlights the location again. So the rest of it's going to kind of be part of that collaborative section. So for this, students are thinking about location, they're thinking about where we would like it to be located and why. There's a bunch of great bunch of great like thinking questions for them to look at to help them to brainstorm a little bit. And again, this is the solo part where they're able to personalize it. Then they start to talk about their own experience, maybe a place that they've been in a hotel, something that they saw at a hotel they went to that they want in their hotel. So this is the personal part. Then there's one more part for the personal, comfort and amenities. Again, you can add a media card here if you feel like you need to explain what amenities is. Again, this can also become a discussion for them about what they've done, where they've traveled, their favorite hotels to go to, favorite vacations that they've had. Again, some more questions to deepen their understanding and to get them to be creative as well. Then after they do the personal part, then it becomes a collaborative part. So kind of the way that you facilitate this is is you go through these first two questions about the comfort and amenities and about the location, and then students kind of start to brainstorm their own ideas. You can also write these on the board. Students are welcome to use each other's answers, use each other's reasons as well. And then when you put students in groups, then it becomes more of a collaborative project. But now they're not just starting from zero. They've got these brainstorm ideas on the board. They've also all done their own small part of this project, and they can kind of talk about which idea they like the best, vote on it, rock, paper, scissors. Maybe you appoint a group leader who is able to have the final say. And then they're able to start their project with an idea of kind of what they'd like to do. So for the project prompts, again, you are introducing the students to these as well. You're not just saying, okay, go through the personal part and you do it yourself. You're going to want to explain things as well, especially in the pre-planning for the project, because as you go on, they're going to have so many questions during the project. So it's really great to explain as much as you can in the beginning so that the rest of the time is just work time, work period. They don't have to pause to ask you a question every 5 seconds. But you still should be walking around and proctoring and asking if they have any questions, even if they don't. You can also make a project slide to consolidate all the information. If you want to just put the tablets away, you can consolidate this onto a project slide and have it on your TV as they start their projects. Again, ask your branch if projects can be modified. And every project should have a writing portion or script. So even if you do modify, you should still keep those writing portions as well. When you are creating groups, I would do random groups all the time, maybe about 2 to 4 students. 5 is too many. 1 is, we don't want to do 1. So if a student asks you, can I work alone? I always just say like, no, because who are you going to talk to? Like, we're in this class to learn English and to speak English with each other. So we need you to be continuing that throughout the project time as well. We need you to be talking and collaborating with each other because that builds your skills. There's a function in the Smart textbook where you're able to create groups. And so you can just put groups in whatever number you have. If you've got 12 students, you can do 4 groups of 3, 3 groups of 4, whatever your project whatever your project is, you can think of a number that might be best for that. Why do I do random? Because it's fast and it's fair. Even if I have a class who is like really good at collaborating, sometimes it takes them like 5 minutes to get into a group, and that's 5 minutes that they've lost to work on the project. It's also fair because I think this is a time where I'll be really careful with students, because if there are already friend groups within the class, maybe it's week 1 and there are already friend groups in the class, and there's a student that you know is going to be left out. Or you know during break time you didn't see them really talking with anybody or anything. Those are the students that kind of fall through the cracks. I think, yeah, I put that in red below. Project time is a time where students can fall through the cracks. So group leaders and instructor proctoring is a great way to avoid that. Make sure that kids feel included. Make sure that the students are wanted in a group, that they feel like they have something to add, and you're kind of encouraging them during that time as well. So I think that's the most fair way. The students are not left out, and that they can work in groups. It's also just good for students to work with strangers. You can also remind them that like in the future, when they have a job, they don't get to choose who they work with. They have to work with boys, they have to work with girls, they have to work with all people. So it's good for them to have that experience, because their parents don't get to pick who they work with as well. So you can kind of tell them like, this is a real life, like soft skill that you need to develop anyway. And be firm on it as well. Even if like you do random and they're like, wait, one more time, teacher, one more time, be like, nope, that's it, nope, done. And then the more that they see you be firm on it, the more they're gonna stop to complain a little bit. So you just gotta get that repetition in, and then they'll start to just be like, okay, this is the way it is, these are the rules. So try not to bend too much. You could also appoint group leaders. That keeps the groups on track, and it can make sure that everyone's equally involved. I like to do this because I think it also stretches students' abilities as well. Maybe there's a student you know you can trust as a group member and you use them often, but maybe there's a student you'd like to see maybe work on their leadership skills in English, work on their communication skills a bit more in groups with their English. You can also pick on them and be like, I trust you today. I think you're going to do a great job. Like, I'd love to see you in this role. Let's challenge yourself today, something like that. You can also use the timing function as well, timer function as well, to keep students on track. So this is really great because, again, you would, the same way that you are with groups, you can be the same way with time. Like, okay, done, tablets are gone, 10 minutes, you didn't finish it? Well, what were you doing? Not doing your work probably. But also obviously make sure like you're making it a conversation, like maybe there was a technical issue or something. So make sure you're starting with empathy and then being like, well, those are the rules. So yeah, you can use that timer function for the personal parts. You can also say you've got 5 minutes for part 1 and 5 minutes for part 2. Now you've got 10 minutes for part 3. And then for the last part, you've got 30 minutes to finish it up. You can also be proctoring and reminding students how much time is left. This is a time where the instructor doesn't have to lead conversations anymore. The student leaders in the groups and just the groups in general will be leading the conversation a bit more. So your role becomes a little bit maybe more on like the back burner, but you should still be proctoring and reminding students maybe how much time is left, what part of the project they should be on, check up on what they have so far, make sure they're on the right track, because some students will completely understand your project prompt completely incorrectly. And then you have to be like, oh, maybe that was my fault for not explaining it fully, or maybe were you not listening? But either way, we want them to succeed. So make sure they're all on the right page and doing the right thing. For project modification ideas, you can always keep the prompt, but maybe change the deliverable. So for my projects for my C2 Alba class, I like to change them into, and you can also maybe tailor it to your class as well. I had a class that loved skits. They loved acting, they loved building props. So I tried to do like a lot of those in there as well. So types of projects where you can modify it is you can have a skit where your students are acting, they're writing their own scripts. Make sure you tell them that everyone has to write their own script. There's not just, okay, rock, paper, scissors, whoever loses has to write the script. That's not how they do it. Everyone should be writing their own portion and collaborating together. If students do not like to act, or maybe they feel like nervous, you can always have them do a puppet show as well, where they still write their lines and they're still speaking, but maybe they have a pencil and they taped a drawing on the top of it, and they can do a puppet show instead. Another option is a newscast, commercial, or advertisement, maybe for a new product. Maybe they're trying to sell something that also teaches them how to use like persuasive language, which I think is really good. They can also make a poster. So this is like fully drawing. They're still writing their script again, or they can do Google Slides or a Canva presentation. For Google Slides, I created a Google account, just like Terra Teacher 1, and the password's like Terra123 something. So it's like a simple login. I have the login on my board, and this is what they use for slides. This is a great way to consolidate everything. I still have my separate like teacher account, my Cheongdam like teacher account, and then this one is just ones that the student use. You can also change your password every term, because you'll have old students who might try to come in and like, I don't know, hack the PowerPoints and stuff because they think it's funny. So you can change your password often if you feel like you need to. And so that's, I think, a great way to consolidate things as well. And Canva's awesome. I think Canva's great as well. For presentations, so I would say about 2 to 3 minutes each, because you're going to be kind of down to the wire at the end of class with these presentations, because this is the last thing that they'll do before they leave. So for these presentations, encourage students to practice 1 or 2 times before the presentations, because then they are able to maybe memorize a bit of their lines, and they also are more like organized as they're presenting them, because they've had some experience presenting it before. When you give feedback, if there's time, I would say maybe 1 minute each. I think peer-to-peer feedback is really valuable because it makes students actually participate during the project time, even if they're not presenting. And it also is an opportunity for them to be paying attention, because sometimes during projects, they'll just sit there and not pay attention. But knowing that you're expecting them to say something about the project, then I think it makes them focus a bit more. So after the projects, you can pick students in the audience to share what their favorite part of the presentation was, or something in the group that they could do better for next time. And then you as the instructor, if there's anything that the students didn't say that you still feel like is valuable, you can give group and individual feedback based on what students did well or what they can work on. Don't overwhelm them. Try to give each student maybe 1 praise point and then 1 thing to improve on. So say if one student is like really not great with presentation skills, I don't say, okay, George, you need to stand up straight. You weren't loud enough. You didn't make any eye contact. You didn't use any gestures. I choose 1 thing. Maybe I would say out of those things, volume is the most important. Let's focus on maybe being a little bit more clear, talking a bit like louder next time. Then that gives them 1 thing to focus on, and it's not as overwhelming. But even if you do have students that are great with presentation skills, there's always something you want to give them to work on, something to work towards. So some possible feedback skills that I put sometimes on the board before, so they know what the expectations are before our first project, is volume, Are they speaking clear enough? Can you hear them in the back of the room? Are they using intonation? Are they just talking at the same volume the whole time? Make sure they're speaking as in a presentation voice. Body language, are they leaning against the podium? Are they leaning against the wall? Do they have their hands in their pocket? Is their hood on? Are they standing straight up? Are they standing in a line? Is someone's back to the audience? So make sure you work on body language. Eye contact, they should be looking at everyone in the audience, not just you. Making gestures, things like the first reason, the second reason, stuff like that. Memorization, they should be able to know some of their lines so they can look up and then make that eye contact. Group, I can give you maybe like 4 group things, maybe like teamwork is something they could be working on, better communication, make sure they're organized. Writing quality is also important, make sure they wrote enough. Sometimes I'll give them each like, okay, if it's a 2-minute project in a 4-person group, everyone has to speak for 30 seconds, like, and it must be equal. So that's again with time management as well. Hopefully they are finished with their project because you've given them enough time. And then also in their workbook, there is a page that they can use to help with their presentation. It gives them some presentation skills on the top, and then they can write their notes as well for their script. So that's great if they want to use their book for that. For their homework. So their homework, they have workbook homework, and then again, they have that perspective essay, perspective speech that they need to finish as well. So the first part of their homework is vocabulary review. This is for their test next week. It'll always be lesson behind, so it's a review from the week that they had before. So they'll study for the vocabulary test. You'll check their homework. If time permits, in the first like 5 to 10 minutes of class, you can help them study by saying the English word, and then if you can read Korean, they can say the Korean word back to you, and you can say yes or no, or maybe it was close. Or you can have them say the synonym, or you can have them use them in sentences, but make sure you're studying with them, because I think that shows them again that you're committed to their success as well. They also have something called perspective exploration. These are multiple choice reading questions based on the pages they're supposed to read for homework. So it's 10 questions. You can go through and check them through as you're reading for your prep as well. Some of these questions will show up again in their concept context pages, which is great because then it can show you, have they actually been reading? Did they just go through and guess? And so you can check those answers with them as well. Maybe after the vocabulary test, because you want to check homework quick and then give them enough time to study, and then send the scores as quick as possible to your staff. So I would recommend doing the perspective exploration homework check after the vocabulary test, or maybe even after the perspective speech. Get all that done in the beginning. So then do check homework, vocabulary test, perspective speech, and then you can check this right before you go into the lesson. For their iLearning, again, they have the perspective speech they need to be finishing. And then if your branch has it, they also have iLearning. This is a series of vocabulary, writing, reading, and speaking exercises. You can check your students' completion and scores on the MERP. So you just go to the class tab on the left, then to management, then to portfolio. And you can kind of see, okay, have they been completing it consecutively? Have they been improving? Maybe that's something you can tell them during class as well, like, Sally, I saw that you went from a B+ to an A+ in your perspective speech. That's awesome, keep it up. Something like that. So again, the students know that you're committed to their success and that you're actually following along with them and monitoring their improvement as well. All right, wow, that was faster than I thought. Any questions about anything? You guys can unmute yourself if you've got a question or anything.
I do for
Yes.
Multiple choice questions, that perspective homework. Do we need to check for
Yes.
accuracy or just completion?
You're just checking
check
for completion, but the students will be checking for accuracy. So you will still like maybe put a heart or a sticker or like an A+ on it if for completion, but then when you're checking it as a class, like they should be grading it still. And if you want to give like, okay, if you get 10 out of 10, you get a sticker or something like that. Avoid like snacks and stuff. Or you can maybe write their name on the board and be like, wow, this is like the good noodle section, like Jared got 10 out of 10 2 weeks in a row. So there's like things you can do to hopefully encourage them to actually try, because it is really easy for them to just like go through and check what you manage. So, but yeah, good
Okay,
question.
and then also we send this with the vocab scores, like with the spelling scores.
Yes, so the vocabulary scores go right to the MERP because you're taking it on the tablet. So you don't have to do anything with that. That just goes right to the MERP. For these, I would just say like make an instructor note, unless your staff would like to know, or if there's parents that would like to know their scores, then that could be something that you might ask your branch. Like, do you want to know these scores, or is this just for me to include in my student comments, or just for me to know who's improving and who's trying?
Okay.
Mhm. Any other questions? All right. Okay, well, the next thing I need from you guys is to take this survey. Let me go through. I don't have the page up, so I've got to go through it really quick. But I will stop sharing my screen. And then I will put the link in the chat. And then once you fill out that survey, you are free to go. So just a second. All right. Okay, survey has been sent in the chat. So you can go ahead and take that survey. And then once you're done, you're free to go and have a good morning. Thanks for your attention, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Could you just quickly show your email again, please? Since you mentioned, just in case, like, if we have any follow-up questions, like, afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I can put my email in the chat as well. There you go.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much, Terra.
Thank you. Have a good morning.
Bye.
Bye-bye.